The storm raged outside, mirroring the turmoil inside the dimly lit motel room. Rain hammered against the window, its rhythmic drumming drowned out by the erratic thud of a heartbeat. Jake sat on the edge of the bed, head bowed, fingers clenched, into tight fists against his knees. His breath came in ragged gasps, his chest rising and falling with the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. Across from him, Sarah stood near the door, her silhouette framed by the flickering neon light seeping through the blinds. Her suitcase rested by her feet, a silent declaration of finality. Her eyes, once warm and full of promise, were now distant, veiled by unshed tears. "Say something, Jake," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the storm. He lifted his gaze, his eyes shadowed with anguish. "What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry? That I regret everything?" Sarah exhaled, shaking her head. "I just want the truth. For once." Jake ran a hand through his disheveled hair, his fingers trembling. "The truth is, I never wanted this to end. But He swallowed hard. "I messed up. I let my demons win." She studied him, searching for the man she once loved. "You shut me out, Jake. Every time I tried to reach you, you pushed me further away." "I was trying to protect you," he murmured. "From me." A bitter laugh escaped her lips. "And in doing so, you lost me. Do you even see that?" Silence stretched between them, thick with unsaid words and shattered dreams. The storm outside howled, wind rattling the window pane. Sarah reached for the doorknob, hesitating for just a moment. "Goodbye, Jake." As the door clicked shut behind her, Jake exhaled a breath he didn't realize he was holding. The rain outside continued to fall, mirroring the silent storm within him. Early calm. "You can have him," my mother gasped. "Nathan," I cut her off. "I'm done." I looked at Damien one last time and walked away. Aftermath, I ignored the missed calls, ignored the texts. I barely ate, barely slept. I called out of work, locked my doors, shut everything out. When my phone buzzed with a message from Damien, I knew I shouldn't open it, but I did. "You'll get over it. Family is family." I stared at the words for a long time before throwing my phone across the room. Because family wouldn't do this. You ever reach a point where you don't even feel anger anymore? Where everything inside you is just numb? That's where I was. After Hannah's confession and the fight with Damien, I should have felt something. Rage burning inside me, grief cracking through my chest, exhaustion from having my entire life ripped apart in an instant. But all I felt was nothing. I shut down, stopped responding, stopped existing outside my apartment. Because what was the point? The woman I was going to marry had been sleeping with my brother for months, and my parents defended him. They expected me to just move on, like I was the problem, like I was the one ruining the family. The harassment begins. It started the morning after the fight. The first call came from my mom. I didn't answer. Then my dad. Then Damien. Then Hannah. Over and over, the same 4 names lighting up my phone. I turned it off. When I finally checked my messages, I had dozens. Some were guilt trips, some were lectures, some were manipulative attempts at understanding. But all of them carried the same message: you need to forgive Damien. You need to think about family. You're making this worse than it has to be. Not a single apology, not a single acknowledgement of what they had done to me. I deleted every message. Then I blocked their numbers. The knock at my door. A day passed, then 2. I barely ate, barely moved from my couch. On the 3rd day, someone knocked at my door. At first, I ignored it. Then I heard her voice. "Nathan, open the door." I clenched my jaw, staring at the ceiling. "You can't just shut us out like this." Silence. Damien's hurting too, you know. I laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. Damien's hurting? She kept going. Hannah is struggling. Nathan, she made a mistake. But she still loves you. I shot off the couch and ripped the door open. The look on my mother's face was pure relief, like she had won. I stared at her for a long time. Then calmly I said, "Go home." Her face twisted. "Nathan, I don't have a mother anymore." She gasped. But I wasn't done. "And I don't have a father." Her lip trembled. "You don't mean that." I stepped forward, forcing her to back up. "You defended Damien." My voice was so quiet, so controlled it barely felt like mine. "You defended him after everything he did. And now you're standing here telling me he's hurting? That Hannah loves me?" I shook my head. "I'm done." Then I shut the door in her face, and for the first time in days, I felt something again. Relief. Workplace ambush. The next time they found me, it was at work. I was in a meeting when my assistant buzzed in. There's a woman in the lobby. Says she's your mother." I felt my blood pressure spike. "What?" "She's showing people baby pictures of you. She's also crying." I pushed away from my desk so fast, my chair nearly toppled over. By the time I reached the lobby, my mom was in full performance mode. Tears. Streaming photo album open. "Oh, Nathan!" She held up a picture. "Remember this? You and Damien in the bathtub together when you were 2 and 4? My coworkers shifted uncomfortably. Security stood nearby, unsure whether to step in. My mother wasn't stupid. She knew I wouldn't make a scene here. I clenched my fists, took a deep breath, and walked up to her. "Leave, now." She gasped like I had hit her. "Nathan, we're family. I will call security, and I will make sure you are banned from this building." Her lip wobbled, then she tried one last shot. "Think of the baby." I stared at her. "What?" "The baby, Nathan. Your niece. Or nephew. This isn't just about you anymore. We need to come together as a family." I took a slow step forward. "Listen to me carefully," I said, voice low and cold. "I do not care about Damien. I do not care about Hannah. And I do not care about that baby." She gasped. I lowered my voice even more. "If you ever show up here again, I will file a restraining order against you." The entire office went silent. My mother's face crumpled. And then finally she turned and walked out. I went back to my office, closed the door, and exhaled shakily. The final straw. A few days later, I was at the gym, punching the bag harder than I ever had when I heard his voice. "Hey, man." I turned. Damien stood there, arms crossed, looking annoyed, like I was the one making his life difficult. I pulled off my gloves, breathing hard. "Leave," he smirked. "Come on, don't be like that." I stepped closer. "I will break your face again." His jaw tightened. "Look, man, I get it. You're upset." I lunged, grabbed him by the collar, slammed him into the wall. The gym went dead silent. His eyes went wide. "You don't get to talk to me," I said. My hands shook from the effort of holding myself back. "You don't get to act like this is just a fight we can move past." He tried to push me off. "Dude, chill." I slammed him back again. "I am not your brother. You are dead to me." And then I let go. I turned and walked away, leaving him stunned and breathless. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't just cutting them off. I was leaving. A fresh start, a new city, because staying here, staying in this town, this life, I'd never heal. And after everything they took from me, I deserved a chance to start over. I didn't reply. 2 days later, another message arrived. "I know I messed up. I hate that we're like this. Can we just talk?" No response. Then the last message. "Fine. Be like that. But just so you know, the baby is coming whether you like it or not, and you're going to be the uncle who refused to be part of their life." I blocked him again because I didn't care. I was done. The final straw. A week later, I got one last letter in my mailbox, from Hannah. I almost threw it away, but I didn't. I opened it. Inside was an ultrasound picture and a note. Nathan, I know you hate me. I know I deserve that. But this baby is coming. And whether you want to or not, you'll always be connected to us. I hope one day you can forgive me. I hope one day you can be a part of this child's life because I'll always believe that you would have been an amazing father. I stared at the paper, the picture, the proof of what they had done. Then I ripped it up and threw it away. And in that moment, I knew. I was leaving. I was done with this city, this life, these people. It was time for a fresh start, somewhere far away. There comes a point where you just know, you feel it in your bones, that if you don't leave, if you don't rip yourself away from everything holding you back, you'll never be free. That point came for me when I held that ultrasound picture in my hands. Up until then, I had been surviving, keeping my head above water, blocking their numbers, avoiding their calls, slamming the door in their faces. But deep down, I still had a sliver of hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd finally stop, that they'd finally see how much they had broken me. But this was the final straw. The call that made it final. I was still shaking when I grabbed my phone. I hadn't unblocked her number, I wasn't that stupid, but I knew another way. I dialed her office number. She answered on the second ring. Nathan. The sound of her voice made my skin crawl. Don't ever contact me again. Silence. Nathan, please, I don't care. She inhaled sharply. It's not the baby's fault. I clenched my jaw so hard my teeth ached. I don't care, I repeated. You, Damien, and that baby, you're nothing to me. I heard her breath hitch, like she was crying. Good. Because I had cried too. I had spent months drowning in rage, heartbreak, betrayal. And now she could drown in it too. I hope you're happy, I said, voice ice cold. I hope you and Damien have the perfect little family you wanted. I hung up, and then I blocked her for good. The decision to leave. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at the wall. For the first time in months, I wasn't angry, I wasn't hurt, I wasn't grieving. I was just done. I grabbed my laptop and started looking at job transfers. I had been with my company for years, and I knew they had offices in different cities. I had never considered leaving before. I had spent my whole life thinking I had to stay, had to prove something. But now I saw no reason to stay. There was an opening in Seattle, a management position, better pay, a new start. By the next morning, I had sent in my application. By the end of the week, I had a phone interview. 2 days after that, I had the job. I was moving across the country, and I was never looking back. The fallout. When my parents found out, they lost their minds. I don't know how they found out. I didn't tell them. But suddenly, I was getting emails from my dad, my mom, even extended relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Dad. You're running away like a coward. Family isn't something you just walk away from. Mom. I can't believe you would do this. You're breaking my heart, Nathan. How can you abandon us? Damien. So you're seriously leaving over a woman? Pathetic, bro. I deleted them all. Because I was done playing their game. I wasn't running away. I was saving myself. The final confrontation. I should have known they wouldn't let me leave quietly. The night before my flight, I was packing when I heard a knock at the door. Then the knocking turned to pounding. I sighed. I already knew who it was. I opened the door. Sure enough, my parents. My mother was already crying. My father's face was red with anger. You can't do this, my mom whispered. I leaned against the doorframe. I already did. Dad stepped forward, voice hard. "Nathan, don't be an idiot. This is your home." I laughed. "This was never my home. This was just the place where I was never enough for you." My mom's face twisted in pain. "Damien is sorry, Nathan." I met her eyes, my voice like steel. "No, he's not." She swallowed. "It's not too late to fix this." I shook my head. "Yeah, it is." And then I did what I should have done a long time ago. I closed the door in their faces, and I didn't look back. Freedom. The next morning, I got on a plane with everything. I owned. Seattle wasn't home, not yet. But it would be. Because for the first time in my life, I was free. No more guilt, no more pain, no more family that only saw me as second best. Just me. Starting over on my terms. There's something surreal about stepping off a plane and realizing you're walking into a life where no one knows who you are. No one in Seattle knew about Damien. No one knew about Hannah. No one knew I had been betrayed by my own blood. Humiliated, torn apart, and left to pick up the pieces of a future that never got the chance to exist. Here, I wasn't Nathan, the guy whose fiancée slept with his brother. I was just Nathan. And for the first time in my life, that was enough.